Good evening, and welcome to Story Hour. I'm tonight's host, Laura Blackwell. My co-host, the marvelous Daniel Marcus, started Story Hour over 6 years ago in the throes of the pandemic. And as we move on to different throes, we're still here because there's just nothing to keep things going, keep you feeling together, like showing up and getting stories every Wednesday. So those of you who've been here before know what it's like. Welcome back. And those of you who are new, let me tell you how this works. Every night, we have two really awesome writers of speculative fiction. And they each read a story, sometimes even two, of their very own. So it's one of the only places you can always go to find writers reading their own work. And we are very proud of that. Tonight's readers are Brooklyn Ann Butler and E.C. Dorgan. So I should tell you, in case you were worried, here we are, just past the solstice, moving into spooky time of the year with the nights getting longer. And tonight is horror stories. Dun, dun, dun. So if you're here on Zoom, feel free to chime in on the text chat. We're friendly. And if you'd really just rather not, you can watch on YouTube. And if you do want to leave us a comment or a little like, that makes us feel good. Writers have feelings too. And with that, let us start with the debut of Brooklyn Ann Butler. Formerly an auto mechanic, Brooklyn Ann Butler writes supernatural horror and contributes to the HWA's mental health initiative, which is good. That's a very good thing. Thank you, Brooklyn Ann. She is also the author of the Final Couples series, horror romances that follow 80s horror movie plots, but with a final couple instead of a final girl, as well as fantasy and paranormal and a heavy metal romance series under the pen name Brooklyn Ann. I think that one will be easy to remember. Mm-hmm. She lives in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, newly embarking on the weird widow life with her cats, project car, book collection, and miscellaneous horror memorabilia. She can be found online at brooklynannauthor.com, as well as on most social sites. Brooklyn Ann Butler, welcome to Story Hour.
Thanks for having me.
It is our pleasure. So, what do you have for us tonight?
I have my short story about a killer waitress titled The Waitress. And it was interesting how this one came about. A publisher put out a call. They wanted to do a anthology inspired by the Tori Amos's music. And there's a song called The Waitress about a waitress who killed another waitress. And I'm like, yeah, I want to write that story. The publisher ended up going defunct before I could submit it, but Candicia Press just put out their call for their yearly Women in Horror anthology, and luckily they liked it.
Yeah, congratulations. Well, let's see now. Content warnings. I think the main one is murder.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Might be a little swearing, but mild.
Yeah, a little cussing. I'm fine with that. Okay, well, everyone, you have been warned. Brooklyn Ann Butler, the floor is yours.
Oh, okay. This is my first reading. Bear with me, everyone.
Oh, it's always such an honor when we get first readings. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
I'm honored to be here. Okay, here we go. So, August 12th, 1979. Transcript of custodial statement of Geraldine Jenkins, aged 56, property of Promise Township Police Department, Homicide Division. My name is Geraldine Jenkins. I understand my rights and I'm giving this statement of my own free will. I swear upon the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help me God. Was I supposed to save that part for the trial? I suppose it don't matter either way. I know you won't believe me. None of you. But can I get some of that coffee? Because if I got to tell you what happened with Daisy May, I'm going to be talking a while. Thank you, Officer Andy. You were always a good boy. I don't know if you remember, but I babysat you when you were about 4 or 5. I see you tapping your foot, Detective. Suppose you want me to get on with it. Let me get my cream and sugar in. You're not from around here, I can tell. People take their time here and promise. Not like in the big cities, always rushing so fast you're going in circles and can't stop spinning. Andy, can I trouble you for an ashtray? Nothing like a cigarette with coffee, even with the swill you have here. And I thought bad coffee in police stations was just a thing in the movies. Maybe I'm spoiled. We make the best cup over at the Flying Dutchman. I guess I should say they instead of we, because I'm probably fired now after what happened. Such a damn shame. I really liked that job. Before the Flying Dutchman, I tend bar over at the Buckshot, and I hated it. People were so crude and rowdy. I couldn't take the drunken scuffles any longer. I believe in peace, and that's what the Dutchman was for me. Peace you could serve in a cup, on a plate, or even in a smile with a kind word. By the end of my first week, I knew I would do anything to protect that peace. Though I do feel bad about the reason I got the job. One of the other waitresses, Linda, had passed on. Some sort of cancer, they said. I didn't know her. Heard she was a drifter. But now I know what really happened to her. Thanks for the ashtray, Andy. How's your mother? I saw that eye roll, Detective. We care about others here. Can I get a light? Thank you, miss. It's nice to see someone good at shorthand these days. It's a dying skill. I hope you're getting all this word for word. Well, I saw your mother on the other day to see Dr. Baker the other day, so I know she's in good hands. All right, Detective, I'll get back to it. When I started at the Flying Dutchman, everyone was so kind and refreshing, except for Daisy May. I knew from the moment I locked eyes with that girl that something was very wrong with her. Yeah, I could tell from your look that you think I'm imagining things, especially since the busboys, line cooks, and customers said she was living kindness. But if you ask my fellow waitresses, they'll say the same as me. Daisy May always got the most tips and was prettier than all of us. But don't think I'm jealous of that. Not at my age. She was as sweet as pie to customers, and even more with the gentlemen, but cold and, well, just off with the other waitresses. It wasn't shyness. We've had our share of shy girls at the Dutchman, including poor Mary Ann, God rest her soul. This was different. There was a look in Daisy's eyes that reminded me of this time I saw Tiger at the zoo, a beastly hunger and awareness that she could eat you if she wanted to. Look at me, shivering so hard I knocked the cherry clean off my cig. Can I borrow that lighter again? Thanks a bunch. Anyway, on the first day, I worked the evening shift while the truckers, drunks, and raisin girls came in. Raisin girls is my pet name for those girls who wore all black and drank nothing but coffee for hours while they sketched and wrote poetry and chain smoked. They seem a little spooky at first, but once you get to know them, they're harmless, even a little sweet, just like raisins. So there I was, serving 2 egg breakfasts and biscuits and gravy to the drunks who were trying to sober up. Their rowdiness disappeared as soon as they smelled the bacon on the griddle. There's something miraculous about a hot breakfast. I bet if there was breakfast every hour, everywhere, it could save the world. I headed back to get another pot of coffee going, and that's when I first met her. She looked pretty as a picture in her robin's egg blue uniform, long tan legs, honey blonde hair, and the bluest eyes I'd seen since Elvis Presley came through town in '66. Being someone who was raised right, I held out my hand and introduced myself. She took my hand, and hers felt cold and waxy, like a doll's hand. I'm called Daisy May, she said in a dulcet yet flat tone. She smiled, showing a little more teeth than I was used to. Those teeth were as white as they are in the toothpaste commercials. I pulled my hand back soon as was politeness allowed, and she went on her way to the window to pick up her customers' orders. After that, Daisy headed out the door because she had the swing shift. Later, when I was having a smoke break with Ethel, the shift manager, I couldn't help asking about Daisy May. We call her the Stepford wife, Ethel told me with a scowl of disapproval on her face. She's been here a year, does her job so well that Clyde loves her, but she's a cold fish underneath that Miss Perfect act she puts on. A few days after, I was scheduled for a swing shift and heard even more about her. She was a drifter, like the dearly departed Linda. No one knew where she came from because she wouldn't say, and her slight accent threw everyone off. Which reminds me, Detective, have you found her next of kin yet? Or her birth certificate? I doubt you have. I'll bet my retirement savings you never will. Andy, can I trouble you for another cup of coffee? Thanks, honey. You tell your mama she's in my prayers. Back to my testimony. Then Harmony, another waitress who'd been at the Dutchman for ages and who I immediately got along with, pulled me aside during our smoke break. You want to stay away from Daisy May, Miss Geraldine, she whispered, placing her warm hand on my shoulder. I don't know if you're the superstitious type or not, and you'll probably think I sound crazier than a shithouse rat, but I swear, if you spend any time close to that woman, things go wrong. You get tired and clumsy, sometimes even sick. Much as I love her, I did think Harmony was crazy at the time. Lots of folks in Promise are superstitious. Some throw salt over their shoulders, others play with rosary beads. I never paid them no mind. And with Daisy May being an odd duck, it was no surprise that some came up with superstitious rumors and blamed her for their mistakes. People love to blame other people and outside forces for their own fuck ups. But I'll be goddamned if I didn't drop a coffee cup the next evening, and not long after Daisy May helped me correctly adjust a table's checklist for some substitutions. She was beside me for barely a minute. Then I got the worst headache. So bad I almost clocked out early. The only thing that kept me going and on my feet that night was spite. Something in her smug look said she'd be happy if I couldn't make it through my shift, and hell if I was going to give her that satisfaction. My next shift was a night shift, so it was easier to stay out of her way. But another gal whose assigned tables were next to Daisy May's did look peaked before she clocked out. I tried to tell myself it was coincidence, but by the end of my work week, I'd had to apologize to Harmony for not believing her. I couldn't deny that something about that waitress was somehow sapping the energy of any woman unlucky enough to go near her. Even some of the lady customers, young and old, their appetites would vanish if Daisy spent too long going over the specials or checked on them one too many times. Never the men, though. Those customers always departed with a smile and a spring in their step. The busboys and cooks also seemed invigorated after a few minutes near Daisy May. The whole thing spooked me, and if I told you I wasn't considering looking for another job, I'd be lying. But you all know the pickings are slim when it comes to jobs around here. I'd already done my time at the Buckshot, and everyone knows the hours and pay at Red Baron's grocery ain't worth a tinker's fart. Then there's the head shop, Space Dog. Lord knows I'd never fit a place like that. I'm too old for that hippie shit. In the end, I decided I wasn't going to let some witch drive me away from the Dutchman. I'd follow Harmony's advice and avoid Daisy May. I managed for about 6 months, and I would have managed longer if not for the new girl, Mary Ann. She was a shy little thing with silky black hair and gentle movements that reminded me of a dove. I rarely saw her in town because she lived in that tiny house by the woods. Something about her brought out maternal instincts I never thought I had in me. Harmony and I tried our best to warn Mary Ann to keep her distance from Daisy May. We were subtle about it because we didn't want to frighten the poor girl. Maybe we should have. Being a high school student, Mary Ann's shifts overlapped with Daisy May's the most. Harmony was able to keep an eye on her for the first few hours before her day shift ended, and I'd watch over her for the first couple hours of my night shifts. I only got a few swing shifts where I could work beside Mary Ann and subtly direct her further from danger. But there was only so much we could do. Mary Ann spent too many hours alone with Daisy May. Every night I saw her, Mary Ann was paler. Soon she began to lose weight to the point where she was down to skin and bones. This was much worse than the usual effect of being around that waitress. When I got a chance to ask the others about Marianne's extreme decline, they told me the gal I'd replaced had wasted away just the same. We all encouraged Marianne to go see a doctor. Even gave her a share of our tips so she could afford it, and said a prayer when she got that appointment. But other than some vitamin deficiencies, Doc London said nothing was wrong. Marianne took her vitamins, and they did jack shit for her. I still wonder what would have happened if she'd seen Dr. Baker instead. Then came that terrible night. I'd gone back to the walk-in fridge to get more whipped cream for the milkshakes and hot chocolate. That's where I came upon them. Marianne, who I'd seen clock off half an hour ago, was pinned up against boxes of deli meat. Daisy May's eyes were bright, fierce, and focused on the girl. I opened my mouth to yell at her to back off, but my tongue was just as paralyzed as Marianne's body. Then Daisy started to change. Her perfect toothpaste commercial mouth widened and distended in ways it shouldn't have. Something came out of her mouth, a long, thin, like, what's that thing butterflies have for sucking the nectar out of flowers? Oh, a proboscis. And you want to know something crazy? Daisy May still looked pretty when she was putting that damage on. As poor Marianne slid to the floor, I slipped back out before Daisy May could use that proboscis on me. My heart clawed its way up my throat and my legs felt like meringue, but I got back to my station and managed to check on my customers like I hadn't just seen one of my coworkers turn into a monster and drink the life out of another. I'm sorry, can you pass me a tissue? My heart still breaks for that girl. She'd had a whole future in front of her, and it was sucked away like a milkshake through a straw. Daisy May must have sneaked the body out, because you all know Marianne was found at home. Everyone believed Marianne killed herself, not listening at all when I said, not a chance. That's when I decided to kill Daisy May. There was no way I could stand silent and let her kill another woman. I knew I'd have to do it fast, even though that would be an act of kindness she didn't deserve. And there was no way in hell I'd wait until she had me hypnotized with those icy blue eyes and shove that gross, what was it again? Proboscis in my mouth and pull me into her ravine of death. It took almost 3 months for me to gain the nerve, but as I watched her feed off my fellow waitresses, and even me the few times I couldn't evade her, my nerve strengthened. Besides, taking my time helped avoid her becoming suspicious of me. To keep the element of surprise, I waited until I had the night off. I wore my black funeral dress so any blood that got on me wouldn't show. Problem was, the damn thing didn't have any pockets. But my purse was big, and besides, not much at home that the diner didn't already have for weapons. I debated whether to use one of the kitchen knives, the big cleaver, or maybe just shove her head first in the fryer oil. I needed to get her alone. Although I had a good idea how I'd accomplish that part, I waited until the dead zone, the stretch of time between 10 and midnight, when not many customers came in. Daisy usually got off work between 11 and 11:30. I slipped in back and ducked into the manager's office. It's always empty at that time. An open box of rat poison sat in the corner of the cluttered desk, vanished with the other stuff Clyde didn't have a place for. Then I spotted what you classified as the primary murder weapon, a check spindle. Some call them ticket stabbers, which was fitting since I meant to punch Daisy's ticket. This one was a good 10 inches long and still looked plenty sharp. My guess it was tossed aside for being rusty. I stuffed both the spindle and the poison in my purse before taking position near the office's little window. Like a deer hunter with a perfect sightline of a watering hole, I watched the cooks, the wait station, and the cash register. Once Daisy closed out her till, I stepped out of the office and waited by the coat rack near the back door. Her blue eyes widened at the sight of me, then relaxed as I poured out my tale of woe. I told her I had a date planned with the new projector operator at the Twinkle Drive-In, and I was missing one of my favorite black pearly earrings that went with my dress. Oh, and on your birthday too, she cooed sympathetically. I hadn't even thought about that. At my age, you try to ignore your goddamn birthday anyway. But it gave me an excuse to play at my story. I think I lost it here last night, I continued, not having to pretend to be fretful, not with what I was planning to do. You know how I fiddle with my jewelry all the time. Did you or one of the other gals happen to spot it? No, ma'am, Daisy said in her perfect butter won't melt in my mouth voice. I did do inventory in the back cooler, I said next, and again didn't have to fake a shiver. But it's so dark and cold in there. I'll help you find it, Daisy said with a sly, hungry smile. And just like poor Marianne, I followed her into that dark, cold death trap. I made a big show of looking for the earring that was, and still is, I suppose, safe and snug in my jewelry box. I kept a tight grip on my unzipped purse, not letting Daisy get a glimpse of the poison or the ticket stabber. I took a deep breath and straightened up. I don't know where it could be. My voice shook, but that could be blamed on the cold. Daisy turned to me and stalked closer. I did my best to avoid her eyes so she couldn't put me in a trance like Marianne. Look at me, she said in an eerie, hollow voice. I pretended to obey, focusing on the tip of her pretty button nose. A cold wind seemed to blow over me, but my hair didn't move. Then came a pressing sensation that felt like thick lead blankets covering my body. But so long as I concentrated, I could wiggle my fingers and toes. Daisy May must have been satisfied that she had me trapped. Her jaw dropped with a rusty creak, followed by the ugly popping sound that almost made me jump. Even though my nerves screamed at me to get the hell away, I kept playing along and waited for the moment I needed. The proboscis thing was even more disgusting up close. It slowly slid out of Daisy's gaping maw like the second mouth in that Alien movie that played at the Twinkle last month. I see what you're thinking, Detective, and no, my story is not influenced by that movie. Daisy's mouth thing didn't even look like that one. It was pink, veiny, and toothless. Its mouth was fleshy opening like a leech's sucker. Hang on, I need another cigarette. You still got that light, miss? Thank you. I hope I'm not wearing out your hand from all my talking. Anyway, the smell was awful, sickly sweet, like rotting meat. My eyes watered like the devil, and I almost gagged. But I stood firm for Marianne, for Linda, for all the other waitresses that monster fed on. When that pink leech mouth opened to suck down my life force, I reached into my purse, grabbed the rat poison, and shoved the box right into the pink void. Daisy May sucked up that white powder like a businessman hoovering up a bump of nose candy. The reaction was the most sickening spectacle I've ever seen in my life. The proboscis retreated like a turtle trying to go back in its shell. It swelled and then got stuck in her mouth, wriggling and twitching as Daisy jerked around like she touched Farmer Jethro's electric fence. There was a sizzling noise. Then greenish foam bubbled out of her writhing mouth in a hot, gushing geyser. Sour stuff spilled all over me before I could get out of the way. I almost ran out of the cooler right then and there. But I've seen enough monster movies to know that I had to make sure this one wouldn't be getting back up. I reached in my purse, got that ticket stabber, and shoved it right into one of Daisy May's sky blue eyes. Blood spurted everywhere, getting all over me, and that gross green foam, too. It was a damn shame, because I did like that dress. I struggled to keep my grip on the check spindle. The bottom was slippery with blood and eye goo, but I held on and pushed with all my might until the long metal spike stopped when it hit the back of her skull. Daisy May dropped like a mail sack. The freaky proboscis had made its retreat somewhere in the struggle. She looked like a normal woman again. She was even still pretty, if you can believe that. I can see you do, Detective, since you saw her shortly after. Dear Lord, the mess of that foam and blood was god-awful, and I pitied the poor sack who had to mop that up. Did you send any of that foam to the lab? Not gonna tell me, huh? Anyway, you know the rest. I tried to sneak out back, but Bobby the dishwasher spotted me and called the police. You all thought I was crazy when you arrested me, and you probably still think I'm crazy. But I swear on my mama's grave and a stack of Bibles that I'm telling the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help me God. Oh, that part is supposed to go when I testify in court? Oh well. Yeah, I killed Daisy May. I did it to protect myself and my fellow waitresses at the Flying Dutchman. I did it to keep the peace. That's my official statement. Can I have another cup of coffee? November 19th, 1979. Sage Institute for the Criminally Insane, Women's Ward. Excerpt from the Diary of Geraldine Jenkins. Dr. Ventura doesn't believe me either. I shouldn't be surprised. Even the women in the jury laughed at me during the trial. That hurt almost as badly as when Erica and Catalina, my fellow waitresses, testified against me. Only Ethel and Harmony believed me, but they didn't have the guts to admit that Daisy May was a monster who fed off us. Some of the women in this madhouse believe me, but I don't know how much that's worth since they're prisoners here too. And most are honestly crazy. Ginger is a sweetheart, but she's also a compulsive liar. I heard she was in here for so many counts of fraud that nobody really knew for sure which identity and social security number was really hers. You almost gotta admire that hustle. Then there's old Agnes, who killed her husband and mother-in-law with arsenic back in 39. And Tallulah, an ex-hooker who killed a John in 66. These women are the closest thing I have to friends in this nut house, and I'll do what I can to protect them, because something happened today. Little Poppy raced up to me at lunch. I'd missed breakfast again. Slept right through. I sleep a lot these days. She said there's a new nurse who's so nice and so pretty that she looks like she's from a fairyland. I didn't pay her much mind. Poppy is a whimsical creature, for a gal who chopped a man into pieces with an axe and fed them to her pigs, that is. But then Ginger and Agnes said they'd met the new nurse too when they got their morning meds, and she did look like an angel. Devils like to hide between angels' faces, Tallulah said. That's when the first alarm bell rang in my head. But I forget what, but I forgot about it until it was time for evening meds. I didn't expect them to make a new nurse work a double on her first day, but there she was, a vision even from my place far back in the line. The hair tucked under her cap was a gorgeous strawberry blonde. Her figure was pageant perfect. My stomach gave a nervous tremor. I tried to scold myself to stop being afraid of pretty gals just because one turned out to not be a gal after all. But then it was my turn, and I stepped forward to face her. Honey was the name on the little brass tag pinned to her snow-white uniform. Her baby blue eyes met mine, and her perfect lips curved in a hungry smile. And that's when I knew. She was one of them, a monster, just like Daisy May. I don't know if she knows about me, about what I did to one of her kind. All I know is one thing. I need to protect my girls. The end.
Oh, that was great, Brooklyn Ann. I really enjoy that. That story has such a great voice.
Thanks.
Ah, poor Geraldine. Just trying to look out for people, really.
Yep.
Well, it is our way at Story Hour to just take a moment between the two readers, because I don't know, every story is so strong, so powerful. Sometimes you just have to take a moment and let it soak in, sink in before you move on to the next. And I like to do this with a breath. Well, everybody, that was Brooklyn Ann Butler's first ever appearance on Story Hour. And now I am ready for another story. Our next reader is a returning favorite, E.C. Dorgan. E.C. Dorgan writes weird fiction and horror stories on Treaty 6 territory near Edmonton, Canada. Her short fiction appears in magazines such as The Dark, Augur, Uncharted, Reckoning, The Ex-Puritan, and in anthologies such as Northern Nights and Afterlives, the year's best death fiction. In 2024, Writers Trust Canada named her a rising star. And in 2025, she received the Writers Guild of Alberta Howard O'Hagan Short Story Award. She is a member of the Métis Nation of Alberta. EC, welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you for the chance to be here.
Oh, wonderful to have you back. So, what do you have for us tonight?
So you mentioned it's the solstice, and for some reason I chose a winter story. So I'm going to be reading my story, Winter Love.
Hmm.
It was first published in Augur magazine in December of 2023 and reprinted in Uncharted magazine, I think in May of 2025.
Wonderful. Well, I could use a little chill. It's very warm here. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you. So it's called Winter Love. This 21st century has been good to us, I remind myself, while Hans and I wait in the boardroom for the meeting to start. We've slotted half an hour, longer than usual, but this new product update matters. You must be Wendy. A woman with sharp heels breezes in, smelling like meat. What you've achieved with the company, remarkable. I fix a smile and agree. She walks us through the details. Version 6 will be our first update since going public 2 months ago. The woman smiles wide. This is going to make you even bigger. Hans reaches under the table and squeezes my hand. We have millions of dollars and hundreds of thousands of followers, but we're still hungry. We didn't start out like this. The business was an afterthought, something to make us respectable in our new life, like the kid. We were still getting used to being parents then. Now that I'm reading parenting books, I understand these things. Logan seems to be developing normally, but he's an odd creature, that teenager. In the early days, Hans worked from a laptop in the old kitchen. Back then, we sold things you could smell and touch. Now our kitchen is twice the size of our old house. The product we're selling is virtual. We've learned over the years, business isn't just business. It's also the charities, the soirees, the boards. Tonight, there's an event for the hospital. Hans sits on the board, and we're among the biggest donors. I'm in French blue tulle, dripping sapphires. My stylist matched them to my glimmering eyes. She says a palette is important. Mine runs French blue to indigo, though I've never worn clothes easily. The event's like any other. Glittery couples crowding around us, self-congratulatory speeches, tiny plates that don't provide sustenance. A woman with painted red nails leans into me. Are you ready for version 6? You're not worried about your competitors? When I look up, I recognize her face. She's a journalist. Tomorrow she'll opine on whether version 6 is a hit or a miss. I smile and fake a relaxed yawn, though in truth I'm pushing down a hunger pang. The woman reaches into her purse for crimson lipstick. She refreshes her lips and smacks. Well, you might want to watch your back. We're up early on launch day. We eat brittle toast in the dark, looking out of the kitchen windows to the trees just beyond. They're why we chose this house, with its glass walls and tamed shrubs. Sometimes at night, I step outside into the yard and breathe in the looming forest. Hans goes upstairs to get dressed. He returns magnificent in a navy suit with bone cufflinks. I bury my nose in his armpit, then run my fingers down his starched seams. For a moment, we're not in our glass kitchen. It's just the two of us in the woods again. Then our driver rings the doorbell and I slip on my indigo framed glasses, even though my vision is better than perfect. The rest of the day is a blur. We're radiant in the live stream version launch. The IT works and the audience claps and oohs and ahs when it's supposed to. Hans shines on the stage, though his eyes are too bright for the cameras. Such white teeth. I can't look away from him. All the key influencers are retweeting us. My followers are up, first by 50,000, then 400,000. The PR team calls us glorious. The market agrees. Our stock rises 18%. By the end of the day, our eyes are burned from camera flashes and our fingers ache from cutting ribbons in front of screens. We're leaving the office when my assistant shows me the article. The journalist with sharp nails has weighed in. She's calling us the #1 power couple. But the calls and text messages start on the drive home. First from our financial team, then from our lawyers. Someone's buying up your shares. We're turning into the driveway of our house when my assistant forwards a new tweet. It's the journalist from the soiree reporting that Amber and Greg Ricky are trying to get control of our company, and they're launching their own product update, version 9, in 2 weeks. She's updated her headline, "Which power couple will win?" We've been competing with Amber and Greg Ricky for years. We started out at the same time, working out of cramped kitchens. Now we both live in glass houses and sit on boards. Hans and I have more followers, but Amber and Greg have a higher stock price. We're all experts at fixing our faces for the camera, and our stomachs are hot and hungry. But that's where the similarities stop. Amber and Greg grew up in plush, carpeted houses. Their eyes don't glimmer like ours do. Before the parenting book, I wouldn't think to talk to Logan about it. But now I know better. Teenagers are connected to the world. They hear things at school and online. Parents need to communicate. The good thing about Logan is he's predictable. I used to lose him for days in this enormous house. Now I don't even need to sniff to know where he is. He's always playing video games holed up in the basement, not the one with the freezers, but the other one with the screens and the speakers. Still, going down the glass stairs, I'm not sure what I'll say to him. A live demo in front of millions is so much easier. When I open the door, Logan is sitting in the dark, consumed by the screen. He lets out a groan when he sees me. I clear my throat. We should talk about the product update. Later, Mom, I'm busy. He doesn't look up. I'm about to protest, but I have a feeling he'll roll his eyes at me. Even without our bright eyes and sharp teeth, this creature has a fierceness. I close the door and start up the stairs, wondering how to reach him. Amber and Greg are suddenly everywhere, in my followers' feeds, on magazine covers. One night, Hans and I are waiting at the table for the new trendy restaurant, and the host tells me I look like Amber Ricky. Hans has to hold me back. 10 minutes later, she and her husband appear. They don't even have to wait for a table, and they're ushered to a better table. Hans doesn't say anything, but I know it eats at him. I smell him in the night, lying awake, sweating in our satin sheets. A few days later, Hans is late coming home from a meeting. I'm waiting in the kitchen, tapping French blue nails on the glass counter, fighting hunger pangs. When he finally walks in, his face is grim. They took our CFO. Our CFO was our first employee. He used to babysit Logan when we were in meetings. When he bought his own house, we were guarantors for his mortgage. He took our files with him. The files are probably the worst betrayal, but it's the personal aspect that bothers me. I'd rip that CFO to shreds if I didn't have a gala to get ready for. We rush, but we still get there late. I realize, stepping out of the car, that in my haste I chose the wrong blue satin. It sits stiff on my shoulders and bulges at my gut. They seat us at the table of honor. Amber and Greg are already there, and the journalist with the red nails inexplicably sits between us. We're served tiny escargot, artistically plated, with gold flakes and poached berries. They don't smell like anything. Amber, with her knife and fork, eats like she was born for it. When I take the cutlery, the metal bends and scrapes my plate. I pick up the butter knife and my escargot goes flying. Amber puts down her fork while the journalist watches. Would you like some help? Later that week, I get hunger pangs in an online meeting with my followers. I'd prefer to cancel it, but the PR team insists these things are more important now than ever. I'm sitting at my kitchen counter, leaning over the screen, looking out at the trees as always when the first pang hits me. It starts at my sacrum, then twists upward through my gut, slams into the base of my skull, making powder from my neck bones. Is she okay? Someone asks in the chat box. I blink. Hans rushes forward with ice water. I drink and he puts his hand on my shoulder. Another pang hits and I gasp. Someone puts a question mark in the chat. Hans moves his hand to the small of my back to take the pangs for me. I rush to end the meeting and Hans tells me, hold on. He runs down the glass stairs while I wait, stomach juices sloshing. The basement was his idea. The first time we stocked it, the delivery driver couldn't believe it. He said he'd never seen a whole floor of freezers and ovens. He called us his biggest ever order and he said, you must be really into paleo. It feels like a lifetime before Hans returns. My nostrils awaken with scent and I salivate with every footstep. I can barely hold back when he appears in the kitchen, face obscured by steam. He places the hot marrow bones on the counter, and beside it, from outside, a bowl of clean, cold snow. He takes the chair across from me, and we don't speak. Our hands move in unison. I cup Hans's face, and he cups mine. Our cheeks are sweating over the steam, but our arms have goosebumps. We're feeling each other's cheekbones, then fingers climbing upward, exploring temples. When I look in his eyes, I see mine, glowing in our matching, drooling mouths. I caress his forehead like I would a child, then tighten my grip on his skin. Like mirrors, we pull downward. We peel off layers of tight skin until there's only the perfect flesh underneath. He takes my breath every time. I sink my hands into the hot bones. Hands, my reflection does the same. We suck, we slurp, and we crunch until steam comes out of our mouths and fat runs down our chins. Then we reach under the table with velvet, tallow fingers and caress the seams of each other's costumes. After the bones, we take handfuls of snow and fill our mouths until we're finally almost sated. The proper meal does us good. It puts Hans right to sleep. He snores beside me on the pillow. I pick up the parenting book and read a few pages. It says teenagers need their space, but parents need to be present. I ponder that. Then I check the news, but it's a mistake. The first thing I see is the headline. The red-nailed journalist has written another article. She references the flying escargot, but it's the headline that gets me. Wendy and Hans in trouble. In the morning, Hans is already awake, eyes shining on satin sheets. He doesn't have to say anything. I can tell he's also seen the article. The course of action is obvious, but when we get to the office, the lawyers spend the day giving us all the reasons why we can't go on the offensive against the Rickies. I don't have the patience, so Hans stays late to deal with them. I'm back in the glass house, waiting for Hans in the kitchen, feeling his absence in the small of my back. Then relief when I hear the front door. But it's not Hans who comes in to greet me. It's Logan, hesitates in the doorway, on the cusp of fleeing or freezing. I sniff, but there's no fear, only awakening appetite. He may have different eyes than me. He may be a wholly different creature, but I know how it feels to need nourishment. Go on downstairs, I'll bring you a bite. I wait for the sound of the basement door, then the distant thrum of a video game. It's a shame the parenting book doesn't contain recipes. There's roast chicken in the fridge, salt and pepper potato chips in the cupboard. I open a bag and give the chicken a potato chip halo. When I open the basement door, Logan is deep in a video game. His face is alive, and something bloody is happening on the TV. I put the chicken down on the coffee table, and he moves to the side so I don't block the screen. Let me know if you need anything. I expect a loud sigh, but when he looks up, his eyes are soft, like prey. The next 2 weeks are harrowing. Version 9 is a hit. Amber and Greg's stock price shoots up 33% above ours, and their live demo gets 300,000 more retweets. They buy more of our shares through proxies, then push for an AGM. Everyone knows it's to vote us out of our own company. Hans isn't sleeping. I smell him at night, sweating through the sheets. We miss our quarterly sales targets. An influential analyst declares our stock risky, and we lose 42% in an afternoon. We run into Amber and Greg at another gala. I'm in French blue silk and silver diamond earrings that look like knives or icicles. Amber's beside me, decked in red velvet and rubies. Her lips are crimson, and when she smiles, I imagine biting those lips so hot blood spills down her gown. Hans and I smile and clap through the mindless speeches, but I can feel hunger pangs approaching. Sometime after the main course, microscopic lobster with foraged truffle, they announce donor of the year. I already know it's between us and Amber and Greg Ricky. They project giant photos of Hans and I and Amber and Greg on a screen. Then the spotlight shifts to our table. Amber and I squint into the brightness, feeling the audience's eyes, fixing our faces into fake smiles. They drag out the announcement with speeches. We're eating dessert by the time they name the winner. Hans reaches under the table and squeezes my thigh. I prepare my smile. We pose, but the name they call is Amber's. The spotlight shifts just as she takes a bite of raspberry trifle. Everyone watches while red juice runs down her chin. Hans and I clap, smiling stiff. We don't talk on the drive home. When we get to the house, we eat a whole freezer full of bones in the dark. The marrow has no taste, and even the snow can't sate us. We're about to start on another freezer when there's a sound at the front door. Our fingers fumble. We barely manage to pull up the skin of our faces as Logan walks into the kitchen. Hans turns around. You're home early. The skin on his temple is loose and hanging. Logan, thankfully, is looking into his phone. I hold my breath until Logan goes down the stairs. Then I fix Hans's face for him while he wipes the counters. This time I use sour cream and onion chips. There's something therapeutic about the chicken chip combo, and I'm getting better at the halo. This time it's almost symmetrical. When I start down the stairs, I feel something new. Is this what it feels like to be a parent? Hans is asleep when I slide into bed. I know better, but I pull out my phone anyway. Tomorrow's headline, under Society, the other couples win at the gala. Under Business, our favorite analyst predicts our stock will tank. My anger rises hot, but when I run my foot along Hans's leg, it dissipates. Hans shifts closer. His scent infuses the air, and I put the phone down. I could lie here, smelling him, forever. We don't need anything but each other. We have money and fame. We could hide away from the world in this house. There's enough meat in the freezers. Logan has enough video games. I could make chicken and chip platters every night. We could watch the forest out the window, smell the heady trees, be a real family. But when I reach to the nightstand to switch off the light, the lamp tips. I reach out to straighten it, but knock it down, my phone and the glasses I don't need. The phone comes alive when I reach for it. There's a banner notification, another article from the Red Nail Journalist. There's a new power couple in town. It hasn't gone to print, but already it's trending. Under the headline, there's a photo of Amber and Greg, and beside it, me and Hans, a big red X over our faces. I nudge Hans until he wakes, pass him the phone, no need to say anything. He's not all instinct like me. I smell him thinking, considering his options, costing out the loose ends. When he frowns, I know he's come to the same conclusion. We get out of bed without a sound, peel off our faces while descending the glass stairs, open the front door, quiet, careful not to wake Logan. Hunger surges, and we slink into the night. Amber and Greg's accident changes everything. Our stock tanks as predicted, but it's back within a day, 11% higher. The hostile takeover evaporates. We launch version 7, and Amber and Greg's former clients have no choice but to come to us. Our CFO begs for his job back. We're barely in the news now. It's just over-the-top headlines and special investigations into the death of the other power couple. A handful of conspiracy mongers point fingers, but even if the authorities suspected us, they couldn't prove it. The autopsy says the injuries are animal bites. Let them try DNA testing. They won't find anything human. But despite our success, my appetite's still there, smoldering. We have more assets, more followers, and bigger profits. The galas are every night now. Sometimes I think we'll starve on tiny slices of Wagyu beef. One night, I find myself in an interview with the sharp-nailed journalist. She's asking gotcha questions, but my answers are perfect, and I'm not even thinking. My eyes wander past the screen to the forest beyond the kitchen window. Somewhere in those woods, carrion birds are circling. What I would give to be scenting my way to whatever they found. I can almost feel the cold under my feet, steam rising from hot flesh. I've grown soft in this house. How long has it been since it was just me and Hans, surrounded by snow, scenting the air, hunting in falling light? We have another gala that night, Entrepreneur of the Year. We already know we've won. Hans comes home early, so we have time in the kitchen to eat. We pull off each other's faces and entwine legs under the table. Steam rises from bowls of hot bones, and we put our hands deep into them. For a moment, I'm back in the forest, smacking tallowed lips and belching with my love. Then, the sound of glass breaking. I blink and I'm back in the kitchen. Logan is standing in front of me. He's holding what's left of a glass, his palm bleeding. When our eyes meet, he freezes like a deer. Hunger flares and I lean forward. Logan's face changes. I realize my mistake. The parenting book says this is a critical age, that it's easy to scare teens away. He turns and runs out the front door, dripping blood on the snow. Logan! I take a step to follow, but Hans reaches out to me. He's grown up now. I push against his shoulder. then bury my face in his shirt. Think of us at that age. He's right. We were on our own in the forest, even before we were teenagers. But Logan isn't like us, and these times are different. Hans should read the parenting book. Still, I don't protest. What could I say to Logan anyway? I go upstairs to get dressed while Hans mops up glass and blood. There's a feeling in my gut, not hunger, but an emptiness. I do my makeup, French blue, but I'm tiring of this palette. I fasten icicle earrings, then look outside at those trees. I return to the kitchen, and when Hans sees me, his mouth makes an O. I feel better without a costume. I help Hans out of his face. Like always, he follows my lead. We take hands. Hans leaves his shoes on the glass floor with the rest of this 21st century. The only thing we bring are potato chips. When we step outside, the air is alive with smells. The cold feels good under my bare feet. We walk on pressed snow to the trees, and somewhere far, I catch the scent of my son. That's all. Thank you.
Oh, that was wonderful.
I love power couples.
And how interesting. You two didn't know what each other were reading, did you?
Mm-mm.
'Cause
First meeting.
we both
So-
got these stories about strange appetites.
Double creature feature.
You know?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Although the creatures were the protagonists in the second.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was amazing. Thank you, EC. That was beautiful.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Loved it.
You have all the opportunities you ever want with us. Please do come read for us again.
Thanks.
So, Daniel and I are here pretty much every week. Well, actually, Daniel has been doing a lot of it while I've been doing StokerCon and stuff like that. Thank you, Daniel. But I'm back now. Can't get rid of me. Next week, we are going to have an interesting one. We've got Faye Gabriel and Kat Weaver reading a story they've written together. And the other reader is going to be a surprise. Maybe we'll leak it on the website a little early if you just check that. It's also a good idea to check storyhour2020.com the day of the reading, just in case there are changes. Storyhour2020.com is also a good place to check our calendar for upcoming readers, watch any programs you may have missed, watch this one maybe a few more times, maybe with the lights up really high or down really low, as you wish. And, you can also just go straight to YouTube and our Story Hour 2020 channel there. Brooklyn and Butler, EC Dorgan, thank you so much for reading your stories for us tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you also to SIFWA for the Givers Fund grant that lets us come back here every week. And thank you most of all to Daniel Marcus, without whom none of us would be here. And thank you, whether you're watching tonight, whether you're watching at some point in the future, as long as you enjoy these two stories, we're all together in the same story house. Good night.